Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Land Down Under Hangout for this month. This month we read Aurora Burning, which was my pick. We read the first one of the series in January, and I knew pretty much straight after reading it that even though this book came out in June or July, this was going to be my pick unless someone picked it up from underneath me, which they didn't. So I was very happy. I have not finished my second reread. I read this back when it came out and haven't finished rereading it. So some parts might be a little bit murky, but we'll start off with first impressions. How about we start with the Matt?
The Matt. I found this quicker and easier read than the first one. I think partially because it was the second book and I was more familiar with everyone, but also because I knew more what the tone was going to be like. It's no secret my YA exposure is pretty much limited to whatever we've read in this group, so it's not a kind of genre that I read a lot of. But yeah, knowing that going in, I found it a lot quicker to get through than the first one. I quite enjoyed it. I'll definitely be reading. Obviously, I think we all realised that it had an interesting ending, so definitely keen to read what comes after. But yeah, I had a fun time with this. Plenty of Star Trek references, that's for sure, scattered throughout.
Mm-hmm. G.
Oh, G.
The G.
That's me. I really enjoyed it. I missed the first one when you guys did the read back in, you said it was January. But I read both audiobooks, one after another. So I'm probably going to get a bit confused between 1 and 2, but hey, that happens. Really enjoyed it. I love the cast of characters. I love the voices. It seemed like it was actually one that I probably would have preferred to physically read. It seemed like an easy, fun read. In saying that, the audiobook was still really good. Really liked the different points of view this time around, particularly Zila. And yeah, the ending, we're probably going to talk about that first, right? So I'm pretty sure everyone I saw of you who read it went, oh my God, the ending. So yes, but good. Thanks for picking it.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was nicely paced. There was plenty of action, but also some nice moments of connection. I particularly enjoyed a few of the quieter moments between multiple cast members, such as when they're teaching Ori how to play cards and that sort of thing. Yeah, and that ending. That ending.
Yeah, that ending. Yeah. That ending. Kirsten.
Yeah, I'm just going to say a similar thing to everybody else. I really enjoyed it. I read through it pretty fast, and I, especially towards the end, like Elizabeth said, the pacing was, I think it was you, Elizabeth, said that the pacing was really good. It did keep me going, and I've been pretty slack with reading physical books, text books rather than audio books lately, but I didn't have an issue with this. I read it really fast. I was reading it at work because I was reading it on my phone, and when I got to the end, I may have had a bit of a tantrum. I was reading in my office, and my teacher aide was like, "What is wrong with you?" I was like, "This book, I'm going to kill Naomi." And
oh my fault. Rita's fault. She started it.
And then I looked it up on Goodreads, and I'm like, the third one doesn't even have a title yet. And I might have been a little bit
title, no date,
a little bit vocal. But if it wasn't good, I wouldn't have cared. So,
at least you cared.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'd rather you give me a book that I do that with than one that I'm like, this is boring and I don't want to keep reading. So I guess that's a plus.
Sarah.
Well, I'm quietly disappointed that you're not referring to us all as the Matt, the Elizabeth, the Kirsten, the Sarah. I was like,
Only Matt. He's just special.
yeah, the Matt.
The Met.
It was more, I was trying to decide what name I was going to say. It wasn't that I was saying the, I was like, Matt.
But I like
I'm
it.
going to choose to ignore that. It was the.
And I like it because, you know, we have a cat. He's the moose, you know, so I like it. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I had to have a physical book as opposed to a Kindle book last time, and it's nicely, the typeface is nicely, you know, paced out. Nice change from, even though I didn't read the physical book of the Black Dragon, from what people told me, was it Kirsten said it was like let's run everything together.
So without even a line in.
I know, there's paragraphs. Wow. So that was really good. But it was like I'm a big fan of reading in bed, and that's not going to happen. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than the first book. I felt, and it's your classic sequel middle book, you know, like we've had all the characters together, they've had their conflicts with another, let's split them up in the second book, which, you know, definitely saw some of the things coming that maybe surprised other people, but I saw it coming. Sorry, classic second book narrative structure. But yeah, I really enjoyed getting to know Zila. That was probably my favorite part, was actually getting to understand her background. Yeah, and getting really annoyed with Cal's sister. So we'll talk about that. But yeah, I guess because I'd already had two people go, what was it? Who it was? Kirsten and Bobby both said, I have feelings. I was like, okay, where are my feelings? And I was like, oh, it was a good evening. Well done. That was well done. I enjoyed that. I can see maybe why they're frustrated, but I think that's exceptionally well done, especially for a second book. Let's leave it on a Empire Strikes Back high note. So, you know, yeah, moving on. The Bobby.
Cool. Bobby's next. I'm randomly picking people in my little screen, so it's fine. Bobby.
Okay. I had a very interesting learning experience with this book about myself, and I think for me it wasn't feeling so much as I have opinions about this book. And David, Shig and I like listened to it at the same time together because we were doing the audiobook. So we finished it at the same time. So and we ranted at each other when it finished because we were just like, yeah. So we've had a bit of a catharsis compared to maybe everyone else. I don't know. But like there were bits that I quite enjoyed about it. We had to go back and actually finish the first book. I didn't realize we hadn't finished the first book. We thought we had. So we actually had to finish the first one. So at least the ending and where everyone's picked up from was very fresh, which was good without having to necessarily read through the first one again. I don't think this is a series that, at least where I am right now in my life, do I want to reread it. I like the authors. I like how they write. I like what they do. I enjoyed the plot beats that they were hitting, so places that we were going and how they laid it out. That was all great. I have no space in my head and my heart for teenage drama right now, and I didn't realize that going into this book. I learned that as this book went on,
yes, of course.
The end, and I was so angry at all this like drama that I had to deal with, and I got no payoff. So I was that was my opinion. I was so pissed at the authors for leaving me hanging, like leaving me there when I felt like I had just endured so much to find out what the resolution was. That was kind of what happened. I mean, there were parts that I really enjoyed. So I'm not angry that I read the book or anything. I'm glad I did read it. I don't know that I'll necessarily be prepared to read the third one. Depends on how long it takes for it to come out. I might just come and let everyone spoiler it for me because I'd like to know how it resolves, but I don't know that I want to give that much many spoons if I have to do that for my own teenager at the moment. Like, so it was a very interesting learning experience for me.
Mel.
Yeah, so I read this in about a day and a half.
Yeah, that was my experience the first time through, about a day and a half. So please continue.
Yeah. To be fair, it was less by choice and more by necessity because I'd put the whole thing off for so long, and it was like, oh God, the hangout's tomorrow at about 3 p.m. yesterday. So yeah, day and a half. It is the kind of book that can be read that fast, though. It is very fast paced. Not sure I'm in a great headspace for the amount of stress that caused me. But I think in any other circumstances, if I hadn't quite been so stressed, I would have thoroughly enjoyed that journey. I felt like this time I was far more connected to the plot than the characters, which you guys all know I'm a very character-driven person, so that's a bit of a weird feeling for me right now. I'm more interested in finding out what's happened than caring about all of the characters, which, considering at the end of the first one, I was like, oh, my beautiful space elf dude.
Do you still feel that way?
And what happened at the end of all of this, I'm just like, what happened? Why do I feel so disconnected? But anyway, regardless, I still had a good time reading it. I'm pretty confident I will read the third.
David.
Oh, that's me. Okay. I have fun opinions. Okay. I don't know. Is this just we give an overview and we go into detail later, or?
Yes, overview, detail later.
Yeah.
Right. This is your first time being here at the
Right.
top.
This is my first time. Yeah. If I could go back and set fire to an audiobook, I would.
Oh wow.
That's a general impression.
The quality of writing. The quality of writing is amazing. They have managed to absolutely capture the essence of teenage angst and stupid decisions. End to end.
That would be why I didn't like the audiobook. I listened to maybe the first chapter and was like, oh no, this is not for me. You can go away now. I'm going to reread this physical book.
It is fabulously done. They managed to capture the black and white thinking of the characters in such an amazing way that I wanted to reach through through space and time and just shake them and go, have you any idea how much of a cliche you are? Because it's so realistic. In Aurora Rising, I was like, wow, like cross-species, like interrelationships and cultural issues. And in Aurora Burning, it's like, no, teenagers. Our love is so powerful, it can only have its own name, it's unique. And, you know, decisions at the end, teenagers. Now, I did think that the plot went reasonably well. It got dragged out way too much. About 2/3 of the way through, I was just falling asleep. To the point that when we got to the end, it's like, okay, right, that was all a bit rushed. You could have maybe played that out a bit more or shortened the book. But apart from that, I think it was very well done, and I don't think I'll read it ever again. Not until no one else is living here, but probably Emma. It's true.
So, as I said in the very beginning, I read this the day after it came out. Like, I went to the bookstore on the day that it came out at like 5. Like, I drove home and then went straight to Carindale to the bookstore and purchased it and started reading it straight away. It took me about a day and a half, maybe 2 days, and then I was like, I feel personally victimized by this book. We don't even have a release date for the next one. Don't have a title, don't have anything. Could mean it's ages away, could be 2 years away. I don't even know. It's hurtful.
And then you thought, I know what I'll do. I'll get everyone else to read it too.
Yep, that was exactly
Actually,
what I
yes,
thought. I'm
I
like,
had-
I need to put everyone else through this kind of pain and suffering that I'm suffering through. So
Thanks
I think
for
you
that,
all do it
Meg.
too. So
You're getting
I love
cold
you
for
all.
Christmas. You are getting cold for your Advent Christmas. Thanks.
Cold dust. It's got to fit in.
Oh,
Wow.
too much to ship though.
Yeah, cold
But I
dust.
mean, like, he's my little space elf, and I want him to survive. Can he just survive, please?
Well, you have to wait an indefinite amount of time to find out.
So I was hoping they'd do like
I
we
just
filmed
want to go
these
now.
movies back to back. We wrote these books back to back and surprise everyone. It's coming out in 3 months' time. But
I'm going with We Have No Body. Of course, he's coming back.
Yeah.
Look, there's
I'll be
time
very
shenanigans
surprised if it
going on. There's definitely time shenanigans going on. So
Yeah.
there
I
will.
know, but
But we are also talking about Jay Kristoff.
That's true. He's got like
True,
4
true.
other series going on at the moment. So
And he's
Yeah, but
not
he's not
exactly
Pat
nice to his
Rothfuss.
characters. He's not exactly
Yeah,
nice
but
to characters.
he's also not Pat Rothfuss, right?
No.
He makes good on what he does, right? So I feel like we're gonna get.
Oh no, we get the book. It's more along the lines of whether the death is a death or not.
Oh, I just meant that I don't like. I know we don't have a release date, but I feel that they're going to make good on this because it's not.
I think they're probably delayed because they both live in Melbourne. I reckon they've just been not able to focus as well on writing as they probably would normally do.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Well, you live there, Mel. You know how shit. Like you're living through it. You can't read. Imagine if you have to write.
Not to mention, Amie has a small child.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, she'll have a teenager one day.
You'll feel very prepared for that.
Actually, if anything, she should make sure she doesn't have any arcs laying around, because if that kid reads this book prior to it actually hitting that age, boy, is she gonna feel silly. Giving her a roadmap of everything she doesn't want them to do.
So just moving on to some of the, I know that we were all sort of mentioning that we really had a better feel for some of the characters this time around. Like in the first book, I feel like we only really got to know sort of Ori, Tyler a bit. Like we didn't really get to know some of the more outer part of the group. And during this one, like we really got to know Zila really well. And I feel like we got to know like Scarlett more on a like personal level rather than just like, I'm a flirty girl with boobs. Like we got to know them more as people rather than as like
caricatures.
Yes. And I was just wondering what everyone's favorite growth of character was. Like
Zila.
Zila
/ Finn.
Yeah, see, I would go with Finn as well. Like,
I enjoyed Finn.
Really enjoyed
Yeah.
him coming into his own.
Yeah. He's exactly like you meet exactly that teenager stuff where you've compensated and, you know, like, I guess it's a reflection on myself of like going to high school, hating it, like lots of bitchy girls, and then going to university and kind of it's a different group of people who don't know you. You kind of don't care anymore, or you know, you're not like it's nice to be in a different world and you grow and everyone else grows, and it kind of that's how it kind of felt with Finn. Like yeah, and I just really enjoyed his character this time around. And Zila, like it's heartbreaking. It is just heartbreaking.
Her chapter I thought was really interestingly written. Like the way they would end like they were switching back between the present and the past, and they would match the line of the end of the sort of flashback and then the thing that was happening in the present. I thought it was interestingly done. So
and like her mantra, I'm not feeling nothing.
Yeah, I'm not feeling nothing.
Yeah.
I liked seeing that coming out, but I also felt like there's still a lot more to go, so it's not like my favorite character development in the book, because I'm like, there's more to explore here. But I guess
she's the one who made me cry. She made me cry at the end.
And I'd also say if you've got a teenager that doesn't understand how to cope with feelings, them coming, it's slow going. They get to the point of saying, I'm not feeling nothing. That takes years to get them there even. So like it's pretty realistic, which was quite nice.
Yeah, it was good that they didn't just have her instantly be better and start to communicate.
And that she did go back into her shell a bit more, and then at the end where she said it's been like, and that bit where like I know it's like movie kind of stuff, but where she said it's been a pleasure surfing with you all, I was like
I say the part that got me is that like Ori didn't say goodbye, and Zila's the one that's noticing that. Like Ori did not say goodbye when she went off to do her thing. She just left, and Zila was all like, oh. Like, oh.
Well, was that the bit where she said I can probably reference it where she said, "Oh, people just leave or they sell you out." Was that the bit where she was talking about?
I think it was a little later because they're getting ready to ram the crystal, I think, or drop. Sorry, no, back up a bit more. When they drop Ori off, yeah, she just says she's noting that Ori is very focused and not like she used to be, and then that she went off and she didn't say goodbye.
Yeah.
David, were you trying to say something before?
There we go.
I was mainly just that the bit that I really liked about Zilla's character was the bit where she actively decided not to hide back in her shell when things got really bad. But it's like that coping mechanism that would really be understandable by anyone else ever. I'm not going to use that right now because, it's messed up, but, maybe I have to keep going through this. That was pretty.
Yeah.
That must have been harder than almost anything else in their character development role. Just to actively not go backwards when things are really messed up. That's all I was going to say.
I had been kind of hoping for that Zila would kind of be like the asexual representation amongst the crew. I was a little bit disappointed that she wasn't, but at the same time, I feel like that would have also been problematic with the other ways that they're portraying her, particularly with being really locked down with her feelings. That would not have gone as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it would have been a bit of a problematic representation version of that if they went with it. As much as I would have liked to have seen some representation of that kind, it probably wasn't a good spot for it.
I just got the sense with the character is that she hasn't had the opportunity to explore that her sexuality, and that she's like, so because there was the first time she says it to Scarlett, and then it's to somebody else. Was it to Finn? It was Finn was talking about it with her, and she said, and then it was in her voice, and she's like, I hadn't thought about it. She was like, almost like, I hadn't thought about it that way, and then she was like, oh, but she's still tall for me. I was like,
was really clever.
She's sort of like, I haven't thought about it that way. Let me have a think about it.
That
trait doesn't work.
It was really clever too, because then they also managed to sneakily bring up just how tall Scarlett is, which becomes important later.
Right, yeah. Speaking of the surprises that were in the story, which there was about 3 of them, that was the only one that I didn't predict. Like I hadn't sort of figured out before we got there. I did not see that bit coming. So it was really good when it was like, the tallness, right?
Everyone's so good looking for a reason. It's not just we're writing really good looking characters.
And it's not twin magic per se, which is what you expect. Like it's just, one of those things that happens in books. Twins have, the connection, but it's not actually twin magic.
And it was even her ability Scarlett's ability to be the face and almost intuitively understand. And she sort of just put it down to reading people, but she's really reading people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I did not predict either.
Yeah. I predicted, hands up, who knew that Star Slayer was Cal's dad even from the first book?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like, why introduce this character if it's not, you're not going to meet him and it's not going to be a surprise dad? Come on, it's like this is so much Star Wars going on already.
Especially when
surprise dads.
Especially when Cal was so insistent that his father was dead, and I'm like, yeah, but you don't seem like you're talking about.
You're protesting too much.
You're saying that he's dead to you, not that he's dead. The way he phrased it was always, I lost my dad, or my dad is dead to me.
Yes.
He never really said, because I noticed that the second time through, because the first time through I was like, how could he lie to her? The second time through I was like, you know what, he didn't really like, he omitted the truth and
half truths, yeah.
But he didn't ever lie outright. It was always, my father is dead to me, or I've lost my father. Because yes, he has lost the person that he looked up to as a father. Like, that person is dead to him. That the Star Slayer is not his father. It's not someone that he looks up to as a figure that's a parent. So
yeah.
And to be fair, even as a parent, he sounds like a piece of work.
Yeah,
yeah.
I can see how he felt like he was telling his truth, but still, like, it's
I get where that's coming from, but under the circumstances,
it's still deceitful.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay, so
well,
I
not just
think
that, but like, I can understand why he didn't want to tell anyone, because he didn't want them to look at him differently.
yeah,
I totally understood it, like, why at the academy, but once he gets to know this crew, and once like they meet his sister, I felt like there needed to be some like, I go, that's the point in time you have to start telling people, like,
well,
when
I
they're
personally thought it was the
actively
note. Like, when you've got a note coming from what is quite obviously the future, although they haven't figured that out at that stage, but you've got a note basically saying, hey, dude, tell the truth.
Tell her, and it's in one of your crewmates' handwriting, and he's like, I did not write this. Like,
yep.
I was actually thinking it was really unfair to judge them based on like Terran like moral values. Like, just assuming that like dead meant physically like not living. Like, I thought it was actually really unfair for them to just totally set him on fire when he's like, no, he's dead to me. Like, he's not my father. It's like so small-minded. And of course, you know, then they're all like Lord of the Flies and vote him off the island. But I thought that really that it didn't come across to me so much that he was lying, so much as cultural misunderstanding. Like,
I think, though, the part of the problem isn't so much the telling. It was that everybody was so emotionally high at that point that it was just not a good point in time to find that information out.
Yeah,
I did think
and
that.
I think the problem was that Scarlett has become the deputy, like I don't know, there's a word for it. With her brother not there, she is now being, by the rest of the crew, assumed to be essentially a captain, even though she's not piloting. Like, everyone's looking to her for leadership. And what happens is, when that deceit has come out, her emotion took over, and you know, Zila was retreating and just like didn't want, like, you know, totally understood it. Finn's kind of aghast, and you know, but he doesn't want to go against. You don't want to go against what your leader's telling you. So I feel like she, like, that was her thing, and then they kind of went along with it. But I actually completely agree with David. Like, I even in that moment was thinking, even Finn doesn't like he's like, it's not right, but it's not all there. Like, even he was kind of this, but he didn't want to go against it.
Like, he's by himself, and he would have been like, you know what, I'm just gonna go with the flow.
And Scarlett's pissed off, and I'm gonna crush on her, and I'm not gonna like.
One, I've got a crush on this woman, and two, like, I don't want to rock the boat because I very much, you know, need these people to survive. Like, I need to stay on this ship. I need my tools to make sure that I can keep doing what I need to do. And I
found it was like, I was like, one of the things I really liked about this series is that kind of found family vibe. And I was like, geez, you just like were like one mistake and you're out. Like,
the ship took him off.
I get why they were mad. I get why they felt like, but you know, hurt that he hadn't told the truth, and I get why they felt kind of betrayed. But I kind of thought, geez, just like abandoning him
at his space station. That was the bit I didn't see coming. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, really? Like,
teenagers.
And you completely disregarding all of his previous
the door.
actions and
now and leave you at this trap.
I think it's kind of realistic to a point, because everyone's feeling everything all the time. They've been under constant like fear of death. They're being harassed and stuff.
Yeah.
Everyone's emotionally overloaded and overtired, and people have died. They're just going to be looking for the next threat and the next thing to blow up on.
As an adult, like, if you were in that situation, you would not be handling it very well. But these are kids who are, like, you know, 16 to 18 years old. No wonder they can't handle it. They're still trying to handle themselves. let alone being under the constant threat of
It's not unreasonable for their age. It just was a bit much for me at that point. So I was like, no, in my reading time too.
I may have been shouting it
That's
at
all.
the audiobook, like explaining exactly which poor life decisions they were making.
Maybe if I was in headspace, I would have enjoyed the audiobook a lot more, but I could not get into.
I remember
I was just like,
Karina saying the first one was that, like, did Karina listen to the first one? Because I vaguely remember her saying she couldn't cope with the first one. There were too many voices and there was one character drove her up the wall. Was that Karina? Or is that somebody else here?
Someone was talking about how the computer thing was a terrible voice.
hated.
Maybe it was you, Nate.
Hated. But that was something. Both of us read the physical first book. We didn't.
Okay. I remember distinctly someone saying first read. That must have been you, Kirsten. You said the audiobook. Yeah. You didn't do it? Or someone else started it and abandoned it on the first book? I totally remember that. He was like, nope, not for me. I'm going to a physical book. Maybe it was G. Somebody did it. Can't remember who.
I don't know. I just tried it with the second book. Did not enjoy it. Bought it on my digital Kindle. I also own it physically, and Karina also owns it digitally. I don't feel bad about returning this audiobook.
For those who have the audiobook, how do you pronounce Cal's sister's name?
Sadie.
Damn it.
How did you pronounce it?
I thought it was Sadie, the cleaning lady.
I had Sadie as well.
Sadie.
Sadie.
Okay. I just had Sadie.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that actually that word is the word for the style of dance, the style of Arabic dance that women started doing, where you had men who did martial arts and the women would steal their canes and go around and play with them, and that was the only way they could get away with it. So I thought it was quite interesting because that was meant to be like, that was like a feminist sort of thing for Arabic, for particularly like North African Arabic culture and Gulf state.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I do wonder if there's a connection there a little bit, because it's about the braids, having the braids in the hair, and the wielding a weapon when you technically weren't supposed to. And anyway,
it's quite possible it was intentional.
Most of the other references are pretty on the nose, so
yeah.
Someone said there were three surprises. So we had Cal is the son of the Star Slayer. The twins are half Sildrathi. What was the third?
That the Star Slayer was also a
trigger.
Trigger. That one got me. But then the moment she said it wasn't there, I was like, oh, I wonder where it is.
The moment it wasn't there, I was like, huh, I wonder where that might have gone. Can't imagine this like universe. That's kind
How did you destroy a star?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I saw that coming because when they were talking about the star, like how he destroyed a star.
That's funny.
I think when I twigged to that was when she was on that like alternate reality place where she was training and stuff. I was like, hang on a second. I think I know what was going on with this star.
Yeah, when they started talking about like what she needed to do, like what would be sort of needed of her and what was going to happen, and then I was like, sounds awfully familiar to someone else that's in this universe. It's done some star destroying, as it were.
I figured it out when they said they didn't, they were talking about it really early on, and they were saying how they didn't know how the star had been destroyed. I was like, oh, he's got the weapon.
Yeah.
So the Borlons, it's like, oh yeah, we hate our enemies so much, we'll just like leave these weapons around and hope that smaller races like that we
That's what I was thinking.
Like take everyone over and wipe them out. Who cares what happens to all of them as long as our enemies get destroyed once we're, off doing something else or gone or
I'm kind of also expecting a similar thing to Babylon 5 where the child races basically go, we don't want anything to do with either of you, we're getting rid of both.
That's exactly what I'm hoping happens, because I actually thought the Star Slayer, I can't pronounce his name. Is it Caesar? Was Caesar?
That's how I pronounced it, because I was thinking that was also probably deliberate.
Like I thought it was deliberate play on Caesar, but I wasn't sure. When he started, I was also already thinking a lot of things when he started saying like what makes them think that they're all that, I was like going, I also thought that, but I didn't kill off all my people. You've
I mean,
got some good points.
Cal
you kinda
already
vetoed
set
them.
that up. Cal already set that up in the Echo. Like he was
But
asking
that's-
questions.
Yeah, and that's when I already started thinking, I don't know about you guys. And then when it all kind of came out, I was like, yeah, make some good points, but you kind of negated them, you know.
Yeah.
Make some valid points, but also you're kind of cuckoo loco bananas. So
yeah, exactly. And but I you know, like I don't know. Like when they're in the Echo and the Esheran or whatever the names are, were describing themselves, you know, we've given up ourselves. I'm going, how is it that you're not that different from the Ram? Then you're basically the same. You're giving up your individuality for the for the greater good of the group. So you're not that different.
I actually got a bit of a vibe at the end of maybe this is going to do that magical flip where the good guys are the bad guys and the bad guys are the good guys. Like the Ram is actually there to save you from the Esheran who have only made you in their image.
They're also like parasiting a bunch of people, and it's kind of gross.
And using them to emotionally manipulate. Yeah.
Yeah,
like giving them forever life.
Yeah, but using them to manipulate other people, like with the father of Aurora's father, and with Kat, with Tyler. Which
they probably don't understand.
Or flowers just want a hug.
Like those zombie ants where the parasites go inside their brain and get them to walk at the end of the thing, and then their brain explodes. It's kind of like that. Like, it's helping, but is it really helping the ant?
Yeah, I like the way, G, you were saying, they're aliens, maybe they don't understand. I'm like, this isn't the alien from Annihilation. Like, it was just like, oh, you guys look cool, I want to copy everything you do and play on it. I was just like, I think they know. I think they have some feelings, but
no, they're plant books. That's what they are. They're just like, everybody needs to be like us, and then they'll just be happy because they'll be like us, and they will be content because
it's hive mind, right? It's your classic hive mind. Which, oh yes, please. Sorry, someone just showed up with chocolate.
Like just a random person off the street, that would be pretty awesome.
I don't think I'd take random person off the street chocolate. Like.
Unless it's Halloween, in which case take all the random people chocolate.
Take all of it. So Star Trek people, or Babylon 5. So who did you think the Esheran were being mirrored off?
They're the Vorlons.
The Vorlons from Star.
And the Raham of the Shadows.
From Babylon 5.
So they basically have the same kind of MO, is that the Vorlons and the Shadows were there for like millions of years, and they've got all the younger races that are now kind of like, theoretically running the galaxy. And every, million years or so, there's a big war, and they kind of pit the little races against each other, and the Shadows think that, the strongest will win, and they'll continue to, evolve in the galaxy. And the Vorlons are like, no. Everyone needs to learn to get along, and it's good versus bad, and blah, blah, blah. And at the end, everyone realizes that they're just as bad as each other, and they tell them to fuck off out of the galaxy. And that's pretty much what happens.
What was the race that you saw them in your own image? Which one was
That's
those?
the Vorlons.
Was it,
not in your own image. They present themselves as a religious figure, or divine figure from
what you Okay, so that was the Vorlons. I couldn't remember who was who.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's also the storyline that's in Star Trek: The Next Generation where they discover that there was a master. It's not a master race so much as
they're called the. They do the same thing. They seed everyone.
Yeah, but they don't have malicious
genetics.
intent. They don't have. They don't. They just seed all of the planets and then disappear, sort of thing. Where
I don't remember the words.
Sorry, that just sounds so dodgy. Like.
Well, the funny thing is, is in Next Generation, they do this whole thing where they track the genetics and multiple species arrive there at the same time. They get this message and all of that. And to me, something like this would be rather a big deal. And then it never gets mentioned again.
Is this the thing that they use to kind of justify why everybody looks like humans, but with like
exactly
bipedal type stuff, right?
Yeah, which
So
is exactly how this one sounded. So that's why I was like, that's what this sounds
I thought
like.
the same thing.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
I think the authors
Interesting.
do like Star Trek because there's Rikerians and there's a Picard planet.
There was a
I did see the Picard place.
There's a what, Bone?
There was a ship called the Janeway.
For the Janeway. I remember
Yes,
that.
the Janeway.
And there was Picard
another ship is
Station.
called the Nerida, which is one letter different from the ship that Eric Banner's character in the Star Trek reboot has.
Also a way of destroying worlds.
Yeah, well, that's literally like. Oh, that's right. The Nerida, I think, is the Starslayer's or the Sildrathi capital ship. That's not the weapon. Yeah, and everyone thinks, oh, it's the one that's made the star go supernova, but it's not. Also, this very much felt like the Best of Both Worlds Part 1, which for those non-Star Trek fans is if you're watching that when it first aired, it was basically the episode where Captain Picard gets kidnapped and turned into a Borg, and it's like, hey, everyone, we're coming for you, and then wait until next year to see the continuation series, and that was like a pretty massive
it was a big deal.
Yeah.
I was in no way angry.
Dear, I do.
But the Starslayer's character at the end just seemed so one-dimensional to me.
Mm-hmm.
It really did feel like, oh my God, you're just doing Palpatine, get it over with.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And that's why, like, I didn't put my hand up. I didn't put my hand up for the, did you realise he was Cal's dad? Because I thought he was going to be like the Emperor guy. Or even like a Snoke, like someone who appears to be in power but is not actually anyone important in the end.
Oh, yeah.
So I didn't pick that. I thought it was going to go in a different direction.
Right.
I really didn't know.
I did like that Aurora said what I was thinking, which was for the outfit, but over dramatic, don't you think? I was like, you're gonna get no caps, get them caught on all kinds of things.
They're a death trap.
Absolutely.
I love Zila's continued hearing changes. And like at one stage, I think it's Finn. He's like, I'm sure she was wearing different ones like this morning. It's like, yeah, she probably was. She's magic. I don't know what it is.
Now, I have a question.
I think we're going
to say, because Matt was about halfway through and I was finished. He was like, now tell me, do we find out why Zila's earrings keep changing? And I was like, no, not in this one.
Just because she can.
Are her earrings the only gift that's left unexplained at this point?
No, it's the ballpoint pen.
Oh, the ballpoint pen. Yeah.
I swear he just writes the note with it, I bet.
Yeah, that's what I was
thinking. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, he's like, you've written the note.
Yeah, I'm
that's
giving
what
you
it's
this
for.
way. Yeah. I did like the fact that with the time travel thing, they totally just used it for Deus Ex Machina. It's like, damn, we're really in a pickle. If only we had 200 gallons of this. Check the cargo hold.
And like, have none of them actually considered this as a possibility? All these things that could possibly only come from someone knowing what's going to happen. Yeah, yet they're all still astounded.
Not even that.
Turning up in his own handwriting. I'm pretty sure that I knew what was going on there.
Yeah,
but also it's obvious who has picked the gifts because only one of them is from the time where all of these things are a thing.
Yes.
I was going to say too that note's going to have more. It's not just about what's his name telling her that his dad was the thing. I think that the note's going to have another meaning as well, because otherwise, what's the point of it? Because he didn't listen to the note. So and the person who wrote the note in the future is going to know that it didn't work. So what's the point?
Yeah,
there's going to be another thing to do with that note.
Is it Finn talking to himself?
Absolutely.
Well, that's what he wondered.
You have a crush on her.
Yeah. Tell her you love her
before she dies. Wait, spoilers.
Or possibly maybe she could be the Joneses' mum, because she's totally going to show up in the next book.
It could also be directed at
who's the Joneses' mum?
Yeah.
Are we saying Aurora's the Joneses' mum? Are we saying no?
No.
No,
just
no,
said
no.
that she's
Just-
going to turn up.
Is Sadie going to go forward back in time and become the mum of?
No.
No. I did have a
gonna
terrible
make her.
moment
Watched a
where I
lot of
thought
time
maybe
travel
they had
stuff.
the same. They were half brother sister, and they had the same mum. And I'm like, no, that's too much like Star Wars
I
again.
know.
Let's
but
not do
what
that.
if Sadie goes back in time and becomes a Joan? Like,
Please don't.
I
Because
like.
Tyler
I'm
and
like,
Sarah are real cute, and if you make her Tyler's mom, I'm really sad about it.
I'm just, guys, unlike anybody in this crew, I've watched so many time travel movies and books and TV series. I got to. Yeah,
You know enough about time travel to know that you should not be your partner's mother.
Or Back to the Future.
Oh, God. If I'm ever going back through time, I'm not sleeping with anyone ever. Like,
Don't kiss anyone, don't talk to anyone, just exist.
That is a safe
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah, that is a
I
safe
feel
plan.
like we need to. Wasn't there like when we did the that movie with all of the time travel and everything? There was some sort of thing where we were looking at the different ways that time travel stories can be told. Yeah.
Primer.
We need to find that diagram again so that we can diagnose this book, the third book, once we get our time travel.
Oh yeah. Although that Primer was that was a mind. That was the one that really blew my mind because they don't have. It's not a loop.
Squiggly lines everywhere.
Oh, it was so confusing. Even with the diagram, I was like, I still don't freaking understand what happened.
But once I finally,
I watched it twice.
I watched it twice too. As we know, sorry, just to recap old things because David and Bobby haven't heard me bitch about this yet. I know you all have.
That one, yeah.
The fountain scene. Don't film next to a goddamn fountain. You can't hear anything because of the rushing back.
They did have a low budget.
I know, but God's sake, like, you know, you can do some just anyway. Other than that, you know, the wiggle wobble, what are they called?
Wibbly wobbly.
Wibbly wobbly things.
That was the most wibbly wobbly movie I've ever seen.
Travel through the weird space foldy stuff when they're not young. They're the old one. They're old. Also, have you found the difference between someone losing their minds because they're 17 or because they're getting too old for space travel?
I just felt like that was a really obvious plot device so that they could make this a way.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense.
But saying that, yeah, that's what I thought. But I also think there's a point to that because isn't Caesar? I don't know what is it Caesar or Cezanne? I can't remember. He's old, right? So, but he's also always in the goddamn fold. So he's also lost his mind.
Well, he evidently has lost his mind. Yes.
Being a trigger also would give you. He's lost his mind for different reasons, I think. But being a trigger, I think, would probably give you some immunity to the normal effects
of
the.
He only found the trigger like 4 or 5 years ago when the kids, like during the Orion War, whatever it's called. Like,
I think being the trigger is what made him go crazy, not being in the fold for that long.
I think they say that when he lost part of his not humanity, vogonity, whatever, when he actually used
vogonity. Like when you lose, like what do you sacrifice every time you use it? It's not just physical; it's mental and psychic, and
Just chime in here. Like he wasn't a good person to start with.
No. He was a few sandwiches short of a full picnic when this whole thing started, and then he started, and now he's got no sandwiches left. Like he's just an empty picnic.
He's very hungry.
Yeah.
I want to quote. I want to one of those, like, you know, those fancy, like, inspirational quote posters that says he's got no sandwiches left.
And he's coming for you.
Not a sandwich for the picnic. He's got
and
no
all the
sandwiches
ants
left.
are leaving the picnic basket with all the crumbs. You know?
But like he wasn't a full deck to begin with, and now he's nothing. Like
But now he's making all these stupid teenage decisions like, oh, well, they're trying to manipulate me, so screw you, I'm just going to blow up planets. Like,
Yep. And I'll wear a big ass, you know, scary costume like, you know, Bela Lugosi, And
like
I'm in my school.
It doesn't seem like he was like a grown adult when this all started. Like a lot of the decisions that Kai talks about him making before he even became the trigger sound very teenage-ish. And I don't know if that's just because he's like, that's part of who he, like, because the war breeds are so like, fight, I'm a muscle man, I fight, boo, 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 rather than actually thinking things through. And I don't know if that's what, like, that's why he wasn't as balanced as being a trigger as Aurora was or is.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, like, debatably. She was able to go, no, I'm not giving this up. I'm not gonna, give away everybody I love. Those people I love are important, and what if it's not for those people, what's the point? Whereas he was like, I don't give a shit about anybody but myself anyway. So
did he also see anything firsthand? Like Aurora saw things firsthand with the.
I mean, like he went through the training, like they would have shown him some things.
That's would have driven anyone nuts.
I suppose it's fairly heavily implied that he went through the training that Aurora went through, so he would have gotten something. Like
but Aurora was already committed to the cause when she showed up. They went looking, like they were looking for a way to defeat the thing, whereas he was looking for intelligence for his own sake. He's a psychopath.
I think he got triggered and then they realized, well, shit, he's not actually what we need. We need to find the next trigger to help us fix the problem with this trigger.
They say that each probe doesn't know anything about other triggers. So like you could be the first or you could be another one. We have no idea. I think he's gone through the training and been successful as far as the Ishvar and collective memory thing is concerned. They're like, you've got all the necessary skills now to do what we need you to do. And then he's like, I
call shenanigans on your alleged reasons. No.
Yeah. But thanks for the weapon. See ya.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then it all goes downhill.
To be fair, yes, exactly what I would have assumed a war breed would do, which is go, thanks for the super cool new upgrade. Bye.
And wasn't there a thing where he's basically like, sure, it's kind of like in, I'm just going to compare it to Hitchhikers, where it's like, I've got this really small bomb and I'm going to, use it to blow up this bunker. And, oh God, it took out the universe or whatever. Like he didn't mean it to take out the entire star or multiple star systems. And of course, then he's lost his brain as part of it, or soul, or whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe it was just like
a little bit like Voldemort in that he had didn't really realize what, with the what it was going to do. Like he didn't know. Like when Voldemort casts that soul spell, he doesn't understand what it does to his soul, etc., and it destroys any kind of.
Yeah, I think if you go by what Ori's experienced, they said like, oh, you'll have to pay a price. Being the trigger, there's a price to pay to use the weapon, but they don't really expand on it as much as we saw.
No. Although admittedly, when simultaneously they're trying to get her boyfriend to dump her, then it's kind of starting to look obvious what that price might look like.
I was like, yep, this is pretty obvious. Burn everything. Like, gee, I wonder what the price could be. Burn everything.
Another tip off that they don't really care too much about the races that they've seeded is they've got a bunch of these probes going around. They're all unaware of each other and whether there's been a trigger already created or not. They have a bunch of triggers get created that all get the same psychic superpowers and all trained up. And even if you don't have the weapon, you still go out and cause a bit of havoc.
So why wouldn't you? I mean, why bother using the super weapon?
Yeah.
You just go in some unsuspecting planet, set yourself up as a god.
Pretty much. Like you could just go to our planet, be like, I am your new god now.
Look at me. Move all these boulders.
Like Stargate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the gold.
We're hitting all the classics tonight.
I have better technology.
Yeah, we really
I'm
are.
a god.
Yeah.
it's like, what's that great quote from Ghostbusters? When someone asks you a god, you say yes.
All the classics.
It's such a good movie.
Genres now.
What I was gonna there's also I think there's also a nice little, I don't know if Elizabeth will help me find the right word because she's got the words down, but I don't know, simile or comparison of parent. Can you guys still hear me, or is it gone dead?
Yeah, no, we can hear you.
Okay. Between sort of parent-child type stuff, because you've got the Ram and the Esharan, who they're seeded races, and they're like, we get to tell you what to do because we are a god, over all of you. And then you've got like the Joneses' dad, who also sounds like he's a bit crap. Especially when Scarlett tells the story, it's like, oh yeah, he's a bit of a shit. Like stay home and be a dad, like if you really care. And then what's his face's dad as well, what Carl and Sadie's dad is, and it's interesting what David was saying about cultural stuff and misunderstandings, because I'm like, that was one of those things of going, I don't want to, like, I know it's a cultural thing, but come on, this cannot be good where you basically, this is domestic violence, guys, but it's cultural, and you've separated out human emotions into actually different type of peoples within your own race. Anyway, but I thought there might be something in that moving forward. We also know that Finn's parents like shipped him off to his grandparents. Zila's got killed, and one of her persons she thought she could trust tried to sell her out for her own life. Like, there seems to be some there's some similarities between parents or people who are older than you who feel like they can tell you what to do, or that they have control, or that they're your gods in your life.
It all sounds really well.
God,
Except for
just
the
clean your
commanders.
teeth, kids.
Good point, G.
That's the only thing I want to control.
I'm worried about them. Not worried about them. I'm wondering about them. Who are they in all of this, and how much do they know about what's happening? Like, are they the ones from the future or the past? I don't know. They're the ones who set up the box, or told them to go to the box with all the gifts in it. They're the ones who keep sending them secret messages. What are these guys? And why is it called the Aurora as well?
The Aurora Academy is named after the Aurora of the future.
It's all been set up especially for them. The whole thing.
The first book, it was kind of like, why is the academy named after her, or like, why does she have the same name? But just to put it down to coincidence, like, oh, we've named her after the character.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
The thing with
David say?
I was just wondering if it was Battlestar Galactica now.
All this has happened before, and will all happen again.
The thing with the absent parents is a huge trope for children's
yes, absolutely. That's what I was thinking, Kirsten. Yeah. And also, it's really true to rights for teenagers. They hate adults. Like absent parents are a thing for young adult and child fiction. But teenagers hate adults and hate any kind of authority. So of course it's going to be everything that's above, like older than them. They're going to hate.
Well, they're going to be they had a profound effect on my life, but they're not here right now. They're not feeling what I feel.
So therefore I need them.
Their origin stories.
Yeah. How could you possibly understand what it's like to be a teenager? I did it once. Oh yes, but it was different when you were a teenager.
Did anybody ever watch that spin-off from Doctor Who called Class?
No.
Well, I vaguely remember
2 episodes.
Yeah. The thing about it that I liked, like, it only lasted one season and then it got cancelled, but it was actually kind of good. And what I liked about it was that the parents were nice for the kids, but also got involved with what was going on in a way that seemed appropriate for what was a YA story, essentially. I was like, God, this is what parenting looks like during a YA catastrophe story.
I'd never heard of
that
this
was one
before.
of the things that annoyed me about this book, as far as that the trope sort of thing, is that they went to that trope with the couple that you know, they get together and it's like lovely, and then they have this humongous fight over something stupid, and you know that they still love each other, but like
That's okay, they killed him off, so it's gonna be fine.
I actually really enjoy, which is not even, maybe it's because it's not that common, I really enjoy books and media where they don't do that, where the couple gets together and they have a strong relationship through the whole thing, and they have each other's back through the whole thing, and their relationship is not the source of conflict.
Yeah.
And shits me
Because
when
they
it's-
talk
that's
to
what
each other.
Yeah,
Oh my
because they
God,
communicate
imagine
and they, like,
talking.
you know, and you can have a story where there's a romance, but the romance is not the source of conflict. And I hate when it is. I hate when they have that trope of, oh, there's a misunderstanding where we could have just told
We
each
can't
other
be
the truth
together
and
now.
it would have solved all the problems. And I'm just
If we had
like,
used our big kid words, we would still be together. No,
Yeah.
that should not be the cause of stressor in the book. Find other stresses. Just let your romance be a romance.
and not just romance, but friendship as well. Like I like it when, and that's what annoyed me when they kicked him off the ship, because I'm like, I like it when you've got this group of people who are all different, but they've got each other's back, and it's the external conflict, and they're the people that are the, you know, I hate when there's the internal conflict, when, because it often feels manufactured. It often feels like they've built up this strong relationship with these people, and then they have a blow up over something stupid that.
Yeah, this is why I found that the writing was very authentic and drove me nuts, because effectively portrayed teenagers.
Yeah.
Yeah, like while that really does annoy me, the like, especially between friends, like that is very much what teenagers do. Like, there'll be one thing
fine, but
happens and it's like, see you later, you are not in the friend group anymore. We never want to see you ever again. You're dead to us.
Yeah, but then how can you expect people to learn and grow if all they ever see is the exact same thing that is like I've had that issue with even like the Pixar movies that come out. There's always the dad's always the stupid, can't deal with children, doesn't even know how to change a nappy, and mom's a super mom. And I'm like, why can't they both be super awesome parents? Like it's
That's why I like
if all you're ever gonna do is perpetuate the same trope.
Have you watched Bluey? You wouldn't have watched Bluey because you wouldn't
No.
know.
Bluey's
But Bluey, that is what I friggin' love about Bluey, because the dad in that is awesome. And like, he
He's
still
not a
does,
buffoon
and he's still
like
playing
in
for
Peppa
laughs
Pig.
sometimes, but he's never like, it's never because he's incompetent as a dad. And you see him doing household chores, like, you know, you see, and he's just, I love him as a
when
dad.
he cleans the toilet. What are these kids eating?
And he's hanging out the washing, and they come flying through with the little, what's the buggy called? What's the cozy coop?
Cozy coop.
And they come and he's just walking out to the washing line with his basket of washing, and they knock him flying. But like, he also like is really, you know, he's just a really good dad, and he's, I think, a really good representation of dads for kids on TV, because like,
He's
you
a
look at
little
The
bit too
Simpsons
perfect,
and you look
though.
at,
I don't know where he gets all his energy, but then he's a dog. So
Yeah,
like,
they're all
there's no
dogs,
time
so-
where he's like, I'm not playing this game with you right now, leave me alone. I'm like, that would be me.
Although, no, he does do that occasionally, but then he usually ends up going, oh, okay.
But yeah, I like that, because it's such a trope of the dad being useless, and it's a bit tired and a bit like, are we not in 2020 now? We don't need the dad to be always useless.
well,
Daddy Pig would like to.
I think it was meant to be like, useless is a bit better than authoritarian arsehole, and people were trying to tone down the attitude and make them more likable, and just it hasn't aged well.
But I mean, like these kids are 17 and 18. Why is it that they're all doing the same thing? Usually by that point you would have, like, why wasn't there at least one teenager who was standing up and going, no, fine, we put him in the brig until we figure out what we're going to do. Like, that still sucks. But then you could have explored the whole thing of, how do we grow from being stupid, angsty, I'm just going to throw you out of the car teenagers, to let's have a developmental moment.
I would have liked to see that, because then, I mean, obviously the reason they did that was because they needed to get him on the ship with the dad and have that whole thing. But like, it would have been interesting for him.
He could have gone with Ori.
And then have them all going to talk to him individually and working out their stuff with him individually. But obviously it was a plot device, because they needed to get him off the ship and onto the ship.
You can totally figure out other plot devices. Like, I mean, but I think actually I'll like refine my anger from the very beginning, like at the very start of this thing a little bit, and I'll be like, what I think pisses me off is that, and I'm finding difficult, is when you have teenagers that are angsty and they're very true teenagers, like they're very well written, true to life teenagers, and there is no developmental growth. Because that is what makes that kind of stuff bearable. I think I'm going to say that, and it wasn't enough for me that it ended without any of that, and I have to wait till the third book to see any of that. I think that's what it is.
Because throughout all the frustration and trust, it's because they're growing so fast and they can barely keep up.
Well, no, but I mean,
we're not seeing that in this story.
Yeah. That's the thing.
Yeah, there is not one time in this entire story that one of those crew hasn't just had an existential crisis because they decided all of a sudden they wanted to be a hairdresser. Like,
everybody take a moment to breathe. This story's happened in like 5 days.
Yeah, that's
good
true.
point.
Yeah, I don't care. Like, are you kidding? Teenagers, it's apparent, you know, yes, their brains change every 6 months, but they're not all changing at the same 6 months. One of them could have had an existential crisis and we could have seen some growth.
I will pay that 5 days, maybe one of the crew could go without wanting to be a hairdresser. Maybe it's because like the long drawn out moments of like torment made it feel like 5 years, not 5 days.
It
Yes,
longer.
we had points, where there were. I mean, there was like when Ori and Kai were in the Echo, that was drawn out. So they experienced that as months. I get that the rest of the crew, that was hours, but they experienced psychologically months. There was months of time for the authors to play with there. Similarly with some of this other stuff. So I mean, like, no, I don't buy that.
They had development. Sexual development.
Wouldn't it be really weird if they come out of that all of a sudden a bit more mature than the rest of them?
But
See?
they did, because it
I was expecting that.
said that they came out. I can't,
Sorry, Sarah, I didn't hear you.
oh, let me.
I can hear you, it just wasn't very loud.
Oh, sorry. I'm back. Is that better? When they came out of the Echo, Scarlett noted that they seemed much more comfortable with each other in the way that, you know, let a couple who is when they've been sleeping together, but it's, you know, progressed, which I thought was cool. I actually remember noting, oh, that's really neat. But on the other note, sorry, a little side note to Matt. Did you get Anakin and Padme vibes from the Echo?
Yes.
Yes. A little bit like tumbling in the and like they kind of ended up having sex in the Matrix more than, it wasn't like real life, so like does it count?
There's no, we're not going to have any little Jones's babies here.
Yeah, it's like just all the good bits and none of the possibly bad bits.
And with the emotional development, admittedly, there was only the echo chamber of the two of them in the ball on. Like, so I could see how that apart from the spiritual growth to make your brain into a super weapon, then there wouldn't be a lot of external people to try and, or external stuff. He basically sat around doing nothing, waiting.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, until he got his little instrument, I was like, dude, what have you been doing?
Yeah, I was thinking that. I was like, I would go insane. I would be crazy.
Well, he's a dark elf, so.
I assume he did dark elf things like learn like training.
Brooded.
Brood practice.
Scared at the Esphrin the whole time.
Yeah, looked at the flames.
No, you don't.
Really good at brooding.
Yeah.
Got the shoulder going.
Check that brood in his eyebrows.
Well, he had what? Weeks before he got his hands. Yeah,
he mastered Blue Steel and moved on to Magnum in that time.
Did anyone get 80s Flock of Seagull kind of haircut vibes from the
Yes.
No, I really just got Legolas. Like,
no, I was just I got tired of them going on about the fact that I got tired of them going on about how his hair was perfect all the time, every second. I was just like, come on, he could fight something and have like a hair. You could notice that the hair is out of place now instead of noticing that it's once again perfect.
It's one of the genetic characteristics.
Maybe they've got special hair that's like natural hairspray, like
just falls into place no matter what.
Because it's not supposed to be like ours. Maybe it's just like
There was once.
This picture on the front cover is not a picture of a man who has hair that is completely all in place. Look at these little wispies.
Exactly.
I can't tell because he's smoldering. Like
The smolder is
literally
Could just be
stronger
full
than
smoke.
This is practical battle hair to me. Like, this is practical battle hair. It looks like he could have. It gets messy from time to time. And I'm sorry, but this is canon.
Elizabeth, what were you going to say?
I was going to say there was once where it was noted that hair was not perfect, and that was Saidi when she'd come back from being tortured. They say
So
that
the
like
girl
her
gets the
hair,
imperfection.
yeah. They say that her hair had come out.
she was near death, wasn't she?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Can we please
not
talk
how we know.
about have
That's
a
how we
big
know her
session
hair
about
is not
Saidi?
perfect.
What about Saidi?
Can we talk about? We haven't talked. We need. I need. Oh my god! I was like, she's just tolerable.
It's like, I'll chop off your thumbs if you think dirty thoughts about me being half naked. You're a teenager, and
No,
I'm
it was
psychic.
worse than that because she did it like you will be thrown to the forebearers of my dogs. You will feast upon. I was like, oh my god, just shut up.
So you want to know the bad thing?
Oh, without
I knew
honor.
as soon as they went onto the new ship. After they found out about it and everything, they went on the new ship, and there was noted that there were rooms that didn't have names on them. I was like, oh shit, Saidi's going to be joining them.
Oh my god, I missed that bit. Now, I would have known there was a sequel if I'd heard that bit.
The scene
totally
with the what's the name of the monster? Is it
Draken.
something or other?
The Draken.
Draken. It's not a dragon.
Yeah.
It's a Draken.
But it's a dragon.
It's pretty much Luke
That was
in the
the,
Rancor
Luke,
pit in Return of the Jedi.
So much so. I was just like, dudes, I get that you're paying some homages in here, but did you have to just redo it entirely?
Yeah.
And I'm like, at this point, you kind of have not skirted. You have stepped completely over the line of plagiarism. Come on.
So which bit? Sorry, Matt. What bit was the
In
dragon?
Return of the Jedi, when Luke's in the Rancor pit, and he picks up a skull and he throws it at the door control, and it drops down and kills the Rancor.
Yeah.
Basically.
I did at least pay that there was just going, you know what? I'm ripping it off. I'm going to rip it off properly.
And Sadie was giving me big Daenerys vibes with her dragon on her shoulder there too. Also
her makeup's a bit more Fury Road.
Yes.
I saw that coming so far in advance that those two were going to be getting together.
Yeah.
They haven't got together yet.
I don't get it.
I can see it happening now.
I know,
obviously.
but I don't want everyone pairing off. And
I'm waiting for them to be brother and sister.
That's what I was worried about.
See, on one hand, I think they will pair everyone off because that's definitely what they did in the Illuminae series. But on the other hand, I'm feeling
she's psychotic.
They are trying to do some different things here, so I'm not 100% sold that they're going to do it because they've certainly killed Kat off, which they definitely didn't do that kind of thing.
They killed her off to make room for the other chick. That's exactly why they did that. As soon as they killed her off, I was like, right, they're definitely going with this ship because the other one, like, if Kat had stayed around, I was still thinking, oh, maybe something will happen that she will get freed and he'll, be able to get.
I thought Tyler got infected. Like, I thought that was the point of the interrogation scene at the end was that they infected him.
That
We
is
don't
a good
know.
point. I worry. This seemed like a plot hole. It's like, what's the point? Can they only infect on a planet that has Raham there? Like, why didn't they just convert him on the ship?
That for them to infect someone, you need to be on one of the planets. You can't be infected by. They said that in the first book that you need to be on one of the mother planets to be infected. That's why they haven't infected already, because it's too hard to get people to come to the mother planet.
Right. And I'm kind of confused. Okay, so the GIA, what do they call the Raham wearing cat skin?
Yeah.
So, please stay. Then he goes off, and then they shoot a missile after him. I'm like, did you want him to stay or not? Like, I'm very confused. Like, if you want him alive,
well, he did shoot her in the face, so like.
Yeah, but
definitive answer.
I felt like the
I'm not staying.
please stay thing was just a manipulation they were trying to do
Yeah,
to
I
get him to
thought so
stay. And
too.
then once
That's
he
what I
left, they were
thought
like,
too.
right, well, you may as well die.
I thought that
What-
too,
what-
but he seemed so sure she was in there, and then I got very confused.
No, that's him thinking that she's in there. She's not in
Yeah.
there. They're using
Yeah.
everything, their tools to manipulate.
Then I'm wondering, though, if maybe that's part of they're not as bad as we thought, but both groups are as bad as each other, is maybe you do retain your individualism to some extent while being part of the collective.
Yeah.
And being loved and welcomed and home. Oh,
Yeah.
She obviously still has some memories
Yeah.
of herself.
But if I want to do something different than the rest of the hive, I get shut down.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We can't allow that.
No. So you want to?
you might kill yourselves. It's like a paternalistic thing. We've got to take care of you because your race is going to kill itself. Obviously, you just took our
Yeah.
weapon and blew up suns. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Can't be
we're, like,
trusted.
distributed. We're like safe. We can keep your brains everywhere.
Hmm.
Hey, maybe the like the like homogenized mold is like actually trying to save everyone from these asshole race with these killer sun killer weapons by spreading everyone out.
I mean, I'm sure that's
The-
what they think.
Yeah. The planets are like the resurrection hubs for the Cylons. It's just
Yeah.
like you die, but you can just get, re-imaged, basically.
Essentially, what's going to happen now is before I read the third book, I'm going to have to come back here and listen to all of our plottings and plannings.
Which theories?
Be like,
I
wow,
mean, anyone who
we should
dropped
make
into
a
this would
bingo.
think we did enjoy it.
We should make a bingo card or something. So as
Ah,
you're
yeah.
reading the third book, you can knock off who didn't guess right.
Yeah.
Mine is going to be like, describing someone's hair, which my idea about all these descriptions of hair and stuff is basically it's a YA book. They want people to rush out and buy the sequels because the pages on that one are getting just a bit too worn in some places.
Can I ask
Nothing
a
wrong with that. But after a while, where they did keep repeating the same hormonal concept again and again, it did just seem to be a bit repetitive. It wasn't about character development. It was porn. Like, that's fine.
Scarlett's got big boobs. Tyler's got really good pecs. Someone's got an 8
I was going to
abs.
say, he's got big
Abs.
balls.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're big, but they're very sore.
yeah.
That was like, oh
Like
my
they
god,
are
you
swollen.
didn't.
Yeah, so at this
Yes.
point they are big because they're swollen.
Did they actually say they were blue? Because I seem to remember that. Just a one-off comment. They were so bruised, they were blue, and it's like, no.
Oh, double entendre.
I really admit that I almost ditched the book in the first Scarlet chapter because I was so tired of
Oh,
her
yeah.
just like perving on
My girl's
everyone
so
and talking about the girls, and I was like, woman.
I'm just going to check. Okay, so back to bitching. Yeah, it was her complaining about, not complaining. She was talking about her boobs and this, and I'm sitting there going, do you actually know what it's like to have big boobs? Because all the things you're talking about, this is not how women with big boobs think. This is maybe how women with fake big boobs think, not women with real big boobs. This is not written as a woman with
The
real
only
big
thing,
boobs.
I
You're
think
not
there was a
writing this
comment where she had to hold them when she ran, and I was like,
That I
I've
have
done
to
that
do.
before.
I have to do that.
Yeah.
I have to do that because it's fucking sore, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not like, do this. I'm like, no, it's no. Anyway, so I was.
There was also a
annoyed
point where
me.
she lost something down a cleavage
Yes,
and
that
then
pissed
found
me
it.
off.
And I've watched you get so many crumbs, Kirsten. I'm like, that is actually.
Like,
because
a lot of it.
doesn't lose money and keys down there.
No,
I lost
no,
some tennis
just
on mask
food.
down my bra. Didn't even know it was happening.
Again, that was so. We're selling this one for teenage boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, a quick question. How does one spell kilometer?
Well, depends on
Are
which
you
country
American
you're in.
or yeah?
Well, you're telling me these people live in Melbourne,
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, but
And-
they're writing.
but
But
America
they're
does not
American
have.
audience.
Their publisher is American. Their publisher
Yes,
is
but
American.
America doesn't have the metric system. They don't
Oh,
get
but
to
they know
tell
the
us how to write
future.
kilometer.
They know the word, and
When I
it's
was
it's like
considering-
center.
And
Yeah,
Star
so
Trek
I was
uses all metric
considering
stuff as well, and
here-
it's an American show.
The maths books that I was being given to tutor with here for students studying here in New South Wales, it actually said that you had two different ways of spelling kilometer, or like meter, and it was ER if you were using it for I forget, I don't even remember what it was, but it was very strange, and it was different.
Is it SI units? Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it was like
exactly.
if you're using it for measurement and you're using it for SI or something like that, then it was RE, and if you were talking about it just as a thing, it was ER. It was
Never heard that before. I've always just
Yeah.
thought America has ER for a lot of things, like
Yeah.
center.
Okay.
And
So
I
they
love
don't.
that.
They
But I
don't.
was
It's because
like,
and we
it's,
have
it's the British and, and
I got it
the
backwards.
Australian, not American. So it's
I'm
Australian and British are spelled.
so
Well-
apparently there's Commonwealth and American spelling for SI units now. So
SI?
That's the
sorry,
international
Yeah,
standard.
standard, yeah.
yeah, like meter RE is apparently the Commonwealth spelling, and ER is the American spelling. But this is coming from Wikipedia, which is its own world on these things. I bet if I just checked, it was going to be a
Anyway,
bit more.
sorry, I just
Like-
had to have a little bit. Sorry, Bobby, but I'm like, look, America, if you've done what you were supposed to do in 1981 and gone to the metric system, we could have this discussion, but you didn't. So,
It's had
anyway.
too many gallons of gas to use still.
I honestly went to see if there was a French and like English spelling, and that was it. But no,
But I am very pleased on many cooking shows that I watch that they are starting to work in grams and mils, although I always laugh because they always go milliliters and they say the entire word. And I'm like, but you know what? I'm feeling you. You're talking, you're saying, oh, it's this many grams, it's this many grams, or it's this many. I'm
grams
like,
is always better when cooking.
yes,
So much
tell
more
me how
accurate.
much it weighs. Give me the weight. Grams is great.
And
Yeah,
plus,
anyway.
then I can put the whole bowl on the scale, and just every time there's a new
Hit
ingredient, hit
tear.
the tear button, and then put the new thing
Yep.
in.
I'm
And I
all
don't have
about
to
it.
waste all these cups that I'm measuring with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm measuring everything in grams.
I just use my hands and I
Side-
eyeball
Are
it.
we
We're
off, are we
still
off
talking
topic
about
now, or are we still
Very,
on
very
just
off
kind of on
topic.
topic?
Anyway,
Actually, I did want to ask a question. I was under the impression that NASA uses metric.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
That's why I assumed they were using it was because of that.
they get a pass.
No,
from
I
Sarah.
think what Sarah's saying is,
Any
why are they spelling it the American way? But
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Like,
the
maybe
American
all-
publisher.
American.
all, yeah, I think all the science is pretty much done in anything metric these days.
Yeah.
It's just the more everyday stuff. Would that be correct? The average
Yes,
person is still doing miles and pounds and
And
Well, you see it in
ounces.
the
stuff,
UK
but you don't do
even.
any
The-
science in that. You do
Yeah.
it in
Yeah, you
Yeah.
see it in the UK still as well. Like they, even
Yeah.
though they've converted, they still constantly
Yeah.
refer to the old school measurements.
how many stone do you weigh? Oh,
I
wow.
know, and I'm like, dude,
How many stone? I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know. How
many
big
I
is the
weigh, and I
stone? What does
don't
it matter? Is it
actually have
granite?
a concept
one-
of what a stone is.
Yeah, I lived in the UK. They were pretty much on kilograms for most of it, kg for most of it. But the one thing that they struggle with is distance because they have so much old signage in miles.
Mile markers.
like-
an excuse. Like it's going to be hard.
The one
It's
thing
like-
I can't.
it's
it's so
1,000,
hard, you know,
2,000
making
years
smart
old.
Yeah.
choices in England, like, you know, leaving the European Union and making changes. It's a difficult life
Anyway.
being in the UK.
Sorry,
Sorry, I
let's
just
talk
want that
about
on something that's going to get
Back on the
broadcast.
system.
baby weights. I have to know in pounds and ounces and not in kilograms, even though I never ever use
Nah.
pounds.
Nah.
But
I-
that's
I
only
can
because you're
work
doing a
with that.
comparative thing, and everyone's always
I know,
told you
but
in
like, if
pounds
someone
and
said,
ounces.
oh, this baby was 9 pounds, then I have
Right,
no
that's a
idea of
heavy
how big
baby.
that baby was. When they say it was so many kilos, I'm like, I don't
I don't
freaking
know.
know.
Oh no, I
what
work
that
in
is.
kg. I work in kg for that.
No, I've converted too. Like I used to do it in pounds and ounces, but now I'm in kg, and I'm like, oh, it's not that hard. Roughly half. It's all good.
I was going to ask. No, we can't.
I actually can't stop thinking in inches. Like I was doing desktop like typesetting and stuff for years, and once I started being able to think in points and inches, it was really hard to stop. It's like,
Actually, that's another one I do is because I scrapbook and nearly all the scrapbooking stuff that you get is from America. Everything's in inches. And so I know all my scrapbooking stuff in inches.
As far as I
12
can
by
tell,
12.
and I might be wrong here because I don't live there, and I really do not want to get into try and bring this up anywhere where I'm going to get flamed for the wrong reason. But I get the idea that scientists in the States are absolutely in metric, but engineers are stuck in imperial.
Oh God.
Means it's like you want to buy wire, you better get it in your AWG, and people talk about quarter inches and stuff like that.
Yeah, they do.
I'm
they
sure
do.
there was
Trying to build things to do with.
I've watched plenty of home renovation stuff, and they do still work in Imperial because they'll talk about the length supply they need. Like if you're talking in that kind of engineering, like if you're talking physical engineering, like architecture,
civil engineering.
I'm sure there was an issue with something to do with NASA or one of the, I don't know.
Yeah, someone calculated it in
it had to do with the space station.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were learning the lessons that they did with the Channel Tunnel when they had issues with that. Because one side worked in one thing and the other worked in another. Things go
It's really hard building things to do with physics when you can only buy your engineering materials with imperial stuff. It's got to be really
Someone needs to bring us back onto topic.
Okay.
Sorry.
Who can bring us back on the topic?
I know. Having us back to the book, because if we're not going to talk about the book, we should probably end our lovely book. Is there anything else anyone wants to discuss other than I want my elf boy back and I need my third book?
Space elf boy.
My poor little space elf. I need to protect him. Evil
I've got a tweet of Jay Kristoff in front of me that he tweeted on September 2nd. And it says, working on Aurora 3 today. Nobody panic or anything, but hypothetically speaking, if there was only one squad member you could pick to survive this.
Yeah, he's a known tease. He's a known tease.
It would be this one. This one right here. This is my boy.
Little
I did think though that one of the things that they might have been trying to do with this book was show how it very much is unlikely that everybody would survive this circumstance, and very likely most of them won't.
I read science fiction and fantasy almost exclusively.
They're all going to survive.
Realism, I wouldn't be reading this genre. I don't need to be realistic.
And if I wanted a realistic book, I would be reading some sort of modern trash that was realistic. I don't want that. I want space elves.
Yeah. I'd like to point out that blame 9/11, it's all 9/11's fault.
So I have a theory. Like, what about if Aurora goes, like, we think she's the one that goes into
the time traveler.
All this stuff. What if she can't come back?
I'm okay with that.
What do you mean she can't come back?
She goes into the future, but she can't come back into their time.
Past. She goes into the past.
She'd have to go into the past.
Because she's going to she's got to take the biro back with her.
Yeah, because stuff's got to be left in the past.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So she goes into the past, but she can't come back.
So then she just does a Captain America and hangs around until she's old.
But then she'll be old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Watch that.
Unless
which is why
she can't be that far.
The psychic powers give her like Fountain of Youth stuff.
She can't be that far in the past because the bunker thing or the whatever
5 years
where all of the presents were, it was set up 8 years ago.
But see, it could be a circumstance that's kind of like what's in The Fifth Element, where they set up like a religion that's to take care of the situation and do it in the future.
You mean like what the Aurora Legion was actually established to do?
Called Aurora.
Yeah.
Can I say hot burn? Do you want some aloe for that?
If that is the case, then they will definitely kill Cal.
No.
As much as I don't like it, I actually think he's gone.
Yeah.
Well, I'm mad about it.
We need to
his brain might be gone and his body might be there. That'd be even worse.
He's going to be in the third book.
Huh?
We need to make a bet now about whether he's going to be alive at the end of the next book or not.
Oh no!
What about?
Okay,
I'm going to be real mad about it, but he's definitely dead.
See what David
He's
says.
going to be alive in Aurora's head the entire
Oh, I was going almost there. I was going to
damn.
say they managed
No,
to get him
that's
into one of
not a
those
lie.
probes.
That's
They
her
get his
slowly going
mind
crazy.
into a probe.
Those
She can
cows.
visit him whenever she wants, but she can never have non-matrix sex with him.
And then Aurora ends up being the
I
big
want-
bad.
No, but I want her to have elf babies. Why can't I have elf babies? Why can't I have this?
It's
Why-
okay because Tyler's
why
going to
is
get
this my
along
egg?
with the dragon.
Why can't I have
line.
elf
Nope.
babies?
Nope.
Because J. Kristoff is writing this book. That's why.
That's exactly the answer.
If it was just J. Kristoff, there would be actual sex. It's because of Amie Kaufman. That's why there's no actual sex in this book.
That was
It's
the
also a YA
disappointing
book.
thing. I knew it was YA and I knew I shouldn't
Yeah.
expect it, but I was like, oh, we're getting to a good part and we're going to fade to black and
No,
ignore it.
it's sexy
Yeah.
times fade to black. Yeah.
And yet, like those Sarah J. Maas ones, we get lots of those. And I caught one of the Year 6
I
kids
have a
reading
question
it the
for
other day. And I was
David
like,
as far as getting annoyed with the teenagers.
That's only
Were you
just
yelling at them all? Because Aurora was a fucking liability at the beginning of this book. I kept going, stop letting her do shit. She breaks everything. They were like,
I thought that was a bit unfair given the fact that, like, I didn't think so much get annoyed at they're useless, because let's face it, almost all the characters are, and even the ones that are useless aren't trying to turn the whole universe into flower people. Like,
but it was just like, she just kept getting injured. And then this thing turns up, she's like, I'm just going to touch it. I'm like, oh my God, this woman is alive. But
I don't like the way that her character is entirely portrayed as like some basket case that just has to be like hovered over the whole book.
yeah, it's a little bit too, what's her name? It's a little bit too Bella. She's a little bit too Bella at the beginning. G gets what I'm talking about.
I like what you
I know what you mean by Bella. I know.
Yeah.
I know the reference and have not seen it or read it.
Bella
there
can't
you
do
go.
anything by herself.
Well,
She needs to be led everywhere.
What was that?
Poor Bella can't do anything by herself.
No, she has to be carried everywhere, apparently. So it's Bella from the Twilight novels who is hopeless.
Very, very clumsy. And it's a part of her charm.
Pretty much. Anyway, is there anything else?
Did anyone think Cal might have actually turned bad at any point?
no.
It's back and forth. I thought he was going. Okay, I'll tell you what I thought he was going to do with his crystal dagger. I thought he was going to go and kill the Way Walkers because he said, "I need to put them out of their misery." That's what I thought he was
I
going
didn't
to
think
do.
of that.
Yeah, I thought that for a bit too. But
I had a
thought
whole
Kelly
other
Young-
thing in my head.
No,
Oh, he's going to kill himself?
thought about it.
No, I thought he was going to carve the Waywalker symbol and then be able to give the power to Ori. The way that his father was taking power off them.
I did take, before we go, I did take one screenshot of a highlight thing that I did because I couldn't figure out how to highlight in a book that I borrowed from the library that would stay. I'm sure there's probably a way to do it. But anyway, and it was like, it was a line. Hang on, let me see if I can find it. Now I've got to go through all my photos and find where I put this screenshot.
It's under screenshots.
So the line was, but it's exhausting and terrifying, like drowning in honey. And I read this just after we read The Starless Sea, and I was like, how the fuck did I read 2 books in a row where somebody was drowning in honey? This is insane. I realized this one was a metaphor, but I was like,
so someone actually did literally drown in honey in the other one?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yes.
I'm like, this is just funny and weird that this, and I probably wouldn't have even picked up on it if I hadn't just finished reading The Starless Sea when I picked this up.
I really hope that's not something that happens in real life very often because, you know.
That, you'd have to have a
Doesn't
lot of
sound
honey.
pleasant,
Although
does it?
I guess you didn't have to.
Not
You
that
could just
much.
have like a centimetre of honey. It would be
Okay, never
sufficient.
visiting a honey processing plant ever.
Drown on it. You accidentally inhale the honey.
Oops. It was delicious. Oh, I'm dead.
All right, guys. Anything else?
I don't think so. Look,
I
as
feel
much
like
as I
more
bitched
questions
about
will
it,
turn
I
up
am looking
later.
forward to book 3.
I
You
am
know.
too.
I am too.
Whenever it's ready.
Haven't titled yet.
I really wish they'd done the hey, surprise everyone, it was actually ready to go and we're releasing it 3 months later, but apparently not.
Not
The problem
everyone is
is-
Mary Robinette Cow.
But when this happens, I forget. And then right when I'm finishing the
I
second
thought
one,
that
I'm
was
like
really
so
good
into it and I
this.
want to read the next one. And then by the time the next one comes out, I'm like, I forgot about those people. And I don't
I actually thought that. I actually have to say, I thought the recap in the previous
useful.
episode was really
Mm.
good. I actually
Yeah.
was like mad props for doing that. Thank you. And they did it, and they did it in the voice of Magellan, which I thought was cool too.
Speaking, sorry, finish. Sorry.
No, I was like, thank you. This is awesome. I'm not planning to read the first one again, and this is what I needed.
Yeah.
Good.
I like it when books do that.
I was really chuffed. I thought it was really cool, and I actually did enjoy the little Magellan bits. There was some bits that made me laugh out loud.
So Magellan's not fixed yet. Will
No.
Magellan have an actual role in the books beyond just like talking at the end of each chapter?
The kneeling getting people killed all the time.
The problem is, my brain kept going, they just said silent mode, but then he starts talking again later. And I'm like, so is there
Yeah, how
there
does he
a
come
statute
back
of
out of
limitations on
silent mode?
silent
Like,
mode?
Just keeps going.
He starts arguing about the silent mode thing at one point. Like, it's pretty obvious that it's just an optional thing there.
He's just like, fine.
But I do like the idea that they've taken like the Hitchhiker's Guide trope and then made it obvious that when there's these random guide entries, no, someone's actually speaking out of this box, and that can get people killed.
Yeah, it's definitely computer from Hitchhikers, and what's the one we read, Starsight with
Embot.
yeah,
I haven't read
Embot.
Starsight yet. Have you guys read Starsight?
Yeah.
Whatever is it first one, Starsight?
No, Skyward's the first
I
one.
was the first one.
Skyward. Sorry,
I haven't read the
Skyward.
I
second
don't
one.
think we've read
I have.
Starsight.
Some
but
people
I have read Starsight.
Yeah, cool.
I have.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of Starsight, but yeah, Skyward. Anyway, Embot's in the first one
Embot.
anyway.
I
Yeah.
did read Magellan in Embot's voice, because I did the audio book for Skyward and Starsight,
Mm.
but I read the physical book of this.
So he's
Every time
so he's
Magellan was
Scottish.
talking,
So Magellan's
I was making
Scottish?
Embot's voice.
So
Yeah,
is Magellan Scottish? Excellent.
definitely. In my head, he was, because he was Embot's voice.
Nice.
Getting back to the original question, though, Ori does say at one point that Magellan gives her a scientific fact every day, or she asks Magellan for a scientific fact every day. So presumably the silent mode comes off.
That's the
Yeah.
Then.
Right. Oh,
Or
that's-
she takes the silent mode off, or it times out, or whatever.
Right. Yeah,
I
I was
did-
wondering about that. 'Cause
He
I
also
turn
seems
my
to
phone on all the
respond
time and then I forget about it, and then
to multiple people's requests to initiate silent mode. It's not like a Uniglass has an owner necessarily.
I liked this bit where they were talking about the famous battles, the Orion incursion, and it basically said the Unbroken's treachery galvanized the Terran population and prolonged the Sildrathi conflict another 8 years. The peace was eventually brokered through the Jericho Accord. Tension between the two races has never quite died. This topic is sad. Would you like a hug? With hug?
Yeah, I love that. That was good.
This is good. So I did enjoy these pieces. It was very, very good. And good info too, because it talks about the Unbroken and all of that. I didn't realize there was quite as many of them. I don't know why. I kind of had that same, you guys were talking about Star Trek, the reboot, and Eric Banner's ship, because I can't remember the name of the character. Sorry. Eric in this is like,
He's Nero. Again,
Nero,
another
yes,
Romulan
he's
to
called
Roman
Nero.
reference. Yeah.
Yeah, of course he's called Nero. Oh God.
he was watching Rome burn. That's why.
Yeah.
I don't remember where I was going.
Something about the ship.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's not that many of them, right? Because they're the only ones who kind of got stuck in the time warp, in the fold of Star Trek, where they're chasing and they came through, so there's not that many of them. And that's why for some reason I was imagining that the Unbroken, there was like a ship of them. I didn't imagine them to be a legion. So are the Unbroken the entire
Oh right, I get
war
you.
breed?
I get you.
that's left.
I think pretty much the entire Warbreed
just went,
cast just decided to be like,
fuck you and your peace treaties.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah. That's how I interpreted it.
Right.
They kind of just they just split off as a group.
Yeah. Scissor Son. Okay, the Star Slayer. Yeah. Because it says the Unbroken splintered off from the ruling Sindathi Council, which it didn't say in here, the entire Warbreed. So I just imagined they were like some counselors and their cronies, and but apparently not by the end of it. So yeah. Okay, thank you. Ooh.
What's the
what
third
year are we
group?
in?
It's 23 something, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. The Aurora Academy was founded in 2214 by the Terran.
No, it's not then. It's 22 something, because I don't think it's been around that long.
Right, because that was my question. How long have we been around? Oh no, the Sildrathi. Okay, so it was founded in 2214. The Sildrathi joined after the treaty in 2378.
Okay, so presumably, if what we're thinking about naming the Legion
Time
after
travel.
Aurora, then she goes back a fair way.
Yeah.
That
is.
Or someone goes back a fair way. We're assuming it's Aurora.
Who else could?
I'm assuming she's got the time traveling abilities, but not necessarily exclusively to herself. She could time travel someone else.
That's a good point.
Presumably Finn lives long enough to actually write the note.
That's what I was going to say. The note was written in Finn's handwriting. So,
but she could write the note then and then take the note back in time.
Well, he needed the pen. So
yeah, but that stuff is only 8 years old, whereas the Aurora Legion exists for about 100 years. So,
but also I have like a really important question. Who's ever owned a ballpoint pen that lasted 8 years?
I don't know how long mine would have lasted, because they always get stolen before they could ever die.
You get a really good quality Japanese one and you don't use it very much, I think you'll get 8 years out of it.
But like, no, the ink would dry out. It'd be drier than the Sahara Desert in there. It definitely would not be able to write. 8 years in Azkaban?
Coming soon to a crossover universe near you.
Oh, that was such a good call.
Here for the rest of the please enjoy the show.
Very good. Very good.
Oh dear. Okay, are we done?
And now we're done.
I think we're done.
That's the perfect spot to end on. People need to watch the whole thing to get to the joke at the end.
It's a long setup.
I'm putting that in the notes. Make sure you watch to the end. There's the best joke ever.
I hope everyone really enjoyed it. If you did stay to watch, next month we are reading
Gods of Jade and Shadow.
Thank you. Next week we're reading Pumpkinhead, and I look forward to seeing you all then. Have a great night.
Bye.